Let me unmute. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am your host for the Collaboration Culture podcast, and my name is Kimberly Winborn. For those of you who are joining for the very first time, welcome. I am excited to present to you another episode of the fourth quarter success series as we are wrapping up the final quarter of 2022. There is so much more that we can still achieve. It is not over. And so, this last month of episodes has been bringing on experts who can give tips. So, we've had content commanders who talked about content with social media and marketing. We've had a social media guru, Quentin Murphy. I'm sorry. Quentin Murphy, who talked to us about social media marketing. We have had some amazing guests, and I am so excited tonight to present to you Fred and Jatasha Harris. I have known Jatasha longer than Fred. You know how you meet the boo through the wife. So I've known Jatasha longer than Fred, but they are one in the same because they are married. They are a team and they operate and function as a team. So tonight I want to talk with them so that they can lead us through a few success tips. Number one, business development. Both of them are entrepreneurs and they have a budding business to the point that they have been able to retire her husband, the boo. They have been able to retire him at under the age of 40. And Jatasha is also living a very free life as well. So we want to talk about that, and I'm going to let them share that story. And then also, how in the world are they working together successfully as a couple? I know some of y'all out there are like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I've heard you say it. I've heard, I've known people to live it, but they are doing it and creating successful teams, successful business growth, and a successful family life. And so we're going to talk about that too. And then we're just going to have some amazing organic conversation. Before we move forward, let us know where you are watching from. Say good evening. I want to know you're out there. Good evening, Kimberly Dixon, my friend. Welcome to another episode of the Collaboration Culture podcast. And just before I bring them on, I want to share with you that collaboration is a culture. And this podcast is all about how we can work together as entrepreneurs, but also as community leaders, organizational leaders, the like, in order to grow our businesses exponentially. So, gone are the days of the silo. We got to work together in order to do greater and bigger things. And ultimately, that will grow our finances exponentially. So, let's bring them on. All right. Good evening.
Hey, good
Hey.
Good
evening.
evening. How
Hi.
everybody?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, friends.
Hey,
Anissa.
Anissa.
All right. So we are excited to have you all this evening. I am so excited. And so I want to dive right in. I want to dive right in. And where I want to dive right in is the how. How did you guys retire Fred from his job? How long were you on the job, Fred? And how did you all retire him? Because I know if I was joining this podcast, that's the first question I would want to know. So can you guys dive into that? And then within that, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, what it is that your company represents.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Miss Kimberly, for having us on. We appreciate it. This journey hasn't always been easy, but it's been so worth it. So we moved from New York to North Carolina in 2013. Just because we wanted to get out of New York, we've been talking about North Carolina for a while. We thought we'd end up in Charlotte, but came to visit the Raleigh-Durham area and fell in love. So I joined the police department in 2013, and yeah, that was a goal of mine since I was a young kid, to serve the community. So that's why we joined the police department. So it was amazing, the experience we had, but because of the tips and strategies that we learned along the way from a previous company that we were actually able to be a part of, we learned so many tips and strategies to help us expand our wealth mentality to the point where we're able to have our investments grow, our team grow. We've seen a lot of success in that company, and because of that, because of the diligence of my wife, the team along the way, the leadership that we had, the leadership that we developed, I was able to walk away from the police department at the age of 37. So I was on the force for almost 8 years. And because of this industry, my wife and I have been able to now successfully bring me home so I can be home full time. I'm still aligned with the police department in a reserve capacity. So if I choose to go in, I can. And there's nothing more powerful than having your time and you choosing to give it freely as opposed to being demanded of you, and you can't choose anything else except to do what they tell you to do. So it's been an amazing journey. So go ahead, honey. I'll let you fill in where I left off.
Yeah, so I'm smiling and laughing because he gave the sweeter version of the story. Really, it wasn't easy, and I don't want anybody to think at all for 1 minute that it was an easy thing. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail because we can be here for a while now, but you got to think about he out in the profession that he's in. We moved down here, as he said, and we both were employed when we moved down here. And then I decided to walk away from corporate world. So I was 33 when I walked away. I'm 42 now. And it was a leading from the Lord. So it wasn't from strategies. It wasn't anything that I had received at that time. It was truly just him telling me it's time to walk away. So here we have two incomes going down to one, where we had a very hard time financially. So we thought it was a struggle, but we really grew and got stronger in that time frame. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There was a lot, and not blood, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No, he
struggle.
wanted
A bit of a struggle.
None of that stuff was happening. None of that. No, but it was tough in that time. But I said, Lord, you brought us to this, then I know you're going to bring us through it. You told me. And there's times that I question myself. Did I really hear from you? People thought I was crazy to tell a story. It was hard because I didn't want to be judged. But at the same time, I said, no, I got to keep going. And so he worked 120 hours on top of his regular shift of 160 hours a month. So my husband was never home.
Wow.
When he was home, he was asleep. He was up eating and he was gone. So the kids were like, Mommy, when's Daddy coming home? Our kids called the police one time thinking they were calling Daddy. They knew to dial 911. And our daughter thought she was going to get him. And the police came to our house. So we were like, something has to give. And fast forward, we got introduced to, a couple of different things. And we had some options and we looked at some things and it got us into the space. And you asked us, what do we do now? Got us into space of network marketing. And that is what really changed everything. It's nothing like having residual passive income that you can get while you're sleeping, while you're traveling, while you're vacationing, to the point to where, as he said, we brought him home because the strategies we learned, they're not teaching in the schools. Yeah. And so we said, let's see what we can do with them. Let's go all in. Let's apply it to our lives. And 3 years in, we looked up and we had the opportunity to bring him home. And so we're grateful for that. So that's
so good.
Yeah.
Network marketing has an exceptional reputation, but also an unexceptional reputation. And so how was it for you when you were first introduced to the industry? How was it for you both? Were you both like, yeah, let's do it? Or was one person a little more resistant? And then how was that journey to be able to say, okay, we're doing this and we're successful and now we can move forward? Because I think some people are sort of like, nah, that's not the thing for me. So what was that process for you all?
Yeah, I'll start. So it's funny because we were both introduced to this industry back in 2006. We had not known each other back then, but I was a teller at a bank, and I knew that there was more out there. I just didn't know what it was. I had never really been introduced to the industry before, but a customer came up, introduced me to another opportunity, and that's that was the leading that brought me into the industry. For her, it was a little bit different. But I know for me, this industry allowed us to see some things and some success right away. So I came into at 23 years old, this industry, and had immediate success. But the only thing that I wasn't taught right away is because you have success, your mind wasn't built for the failures to come behind it. That's right. And so when you hit that stride and you automatically glide thinking it's going to coast, you're going to get that 7-figure mark. But you hit that roadblock. I didn't mentally know how to deal with that roadblock. And so for me, going forward, we had started dating after a while, and that roadblock continued to happen. And then failure in leadership or failure in growth for myself led me to actually step away from the industry. for not just a short while, but for 10 years. I felt like I didn't want nothing to do with it. I felt like I had been uh, led. I won't say led astray, but I felt like my trust level had been basically just shattered in this industry. And it wasn't because of the industry. It was just because of a person or situation that I internalized, because I didn't have the development in myself at that moment in time to realize it's not the company or the industry, it's just this situation. And so instead of moving past that, I became and I was an advocate no more for the industry, and I said I'm stepping away. And so my wife, I'll let her go ahead and share her quick story and lead us up to where we are now.
Yeah, so like you said, we met in the industry and we got introduced. We ended up being on a similar team, not same team, but underneath the same leadership. And when that happened to my husband, when he had a situation where somebody hurt him in the industry, we were dating. And so here I am, the girlfriend, like, oh, y'all gonna do that to my boyfriend? Then I'm out too. And that's
Yeah.
what happened. That's literally how I got out. Loved the industry, didn't know anything about it. I was 26 when I got, or 25, excuse me, when I got introduced to it. And a lady just walked up to me with a magazine and she started asking me a few questions. We were at I think a poetry event. And she was like, oh, hey, how are you? I was by myself and she asked me, what do I do? And we started talking. And at that time, I was in the profession that I was in. And I shared with her and she was like, oh, a group of mine is needing your assistance. And that's how I got introduced to it. So she kind of piqued my interest a little bit because her group needed what I had. But little did I know she was luring me into this industry. And it was one of the best things that she could have done. And that's how I got in. But as I said, when he got hurt, I walked away and we both walked away and we went back to what we knew, leading on our degrees, right? We both graduated, have a degree in college and served in the military. So we had all of that to fall back on. And that's what we did. We was back to work. And we still learned a lot in that time frame that we were there. So you can't unlearn what you learn. And so we said, we still love this industry, but we're just looking for another way, trying to find. And fast forward, when we got down here, it came back into our life again. And we liked what we heard. We liked the leadership that, what we had seen. And we got back in 2016.
16, just after our son was born.
Right after our son was born. And we have not looked back and we have been all in ever since then. We had some transitions in company just because we got to certain lids. And, they say network marketers, if you haven't gone through 5 to 7 companies, you really haven't really found your home yet. And so it's not it's not frowned upon if you jump from one company to another company, if you just feel like you're no longer growing or things happen. That's not a bad thing. Where I know some people who don't know this industry may look at that as, oh, they're jumping around. No, they're just trying to find their home.
Right.
And so that's where we've always been in growth mode.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with us, and that's how we started working this industry again together.
Well, it's interesting that people say that, and I didn't realize that was sort of the industry's model, that if you don't hop around to about 6 or 7 companies, then you really haven't gotten real in this thing. But like when we think about life itself, and if you're working a job and you're not happy, you hop around to another job, or entrepreneurship. You start a business, it doesn't grow the way that you want. You learn something else along the way, and you now transition to that. And nobody's saying, like, especially on a job, like, oh, they're congratulating you, oh, you got a better job, you got a better position. And so it's interesting that you say that people would question if you were to move from one company to another, because that's just life. That's how we learn, and that's how we build. And so that's interesting to me. So for instance, even with this podcast, it started off as the Coffee and Collaborations radio show, and it moved to be a podcast. And then we did the Ultimate Fan podcast. And then I realized that everything needed to be the collaboration culture. And, that's what happens. You
Yeah.
shift,
Yeah.
and you grow, and you build, and you transition. And so I want to go back for just a second, because you were talking, Jatasha, about the leading from the Lord. And so that piqued my curiosity, as well as you guys were talking about the children. And I want to talk about, just from a personal development. I think you started touching on it a little bit, Fred, but from a personal development mindset, uh, getting the family involved in the process. So from that whole derivative direction of things, can we speak to that? You talked about the leading from the Lord, but you also talked about the children wanting to connect with their dad, but him being busy and gone and all that stuff, and now you have the business. What are the pros as a result of making that shift to entrepreneurship from the job? And are there any cons? And how are you able? Hopefully, this is I can remind you of all the question if I need to. But how are you able to take your children along with you on the journey and listen to the Lord?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. I'll let you go first with the leading question.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, our background, our faith is in
Mm-hmm.
Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hide that. We don't deny it at all. And everything that we do, we always consult with the Lord first.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I knew that I heard from him, because it wasn't just an emotional decision. It wasn't just, oh, I don't want to work. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
afraid of work. I've worked since I was 13 years old, before I could even legally work. I
Mm-hmm.
was somebody who paid me to do a job. And so I knew that that wasn't the issue. I knew I didn't want to sit home. I'm not to sit home with my feet up. Nothing wrong with that. But I knew that
Mm-hmm.
there was more that I needed to contribute. And I don't like limitations. And I felt that jobs and that I've had over the time, I feel still limited, because I'm like, I'm just not meant to work in a job any longer. And so
Mm-hmm.
I already knew I was in that place and space, and God kept speaking to me, and what I kept hearing and feeling was that it's fear. It's fear of what the unknown. It's fear of what people are going to think if I walk away. Because I had no problem when he told me to go. I was like, let's do it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
ready. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, but I was worried about what he was going to think. I was worried about what my family was going to think, what others, friends. And so once I finally said, you know what? I mean, I was crying profusely that morning when it happened. And then I went to my husband, and, we put it on the table for a little bit, for a couple of hours. And I put in my notice that day to my job, and I told them, and they were a little, taken back, because I had just transitioned to that position, because we just moved. But at the same time, my boss, I remember him saying, "I'm proud of you." And if I was younger, and like you, I would have done the same thing. He said, "But if you need anything," I remember the HR said, "if you ever need to come back, then we're here." And so I appreciated that. And I mean, they were very gracious. So that was easy. That helped, and that's all I needed. I needed his support. I had the message from the Lord. And then I
Mm-hmm.
went on, and we went for it. As far as our children, you want to touch on that part?
Yeah, for us, we've always, since the beginning, even when we started dating, we've always been conscious about spending time together, especially when we became parents,
Mm-hmm.
new parents. And we always said that we wanted to create that routine, that family time routine. So we've always been, the kind of parents to incorporate our children in everything we do, because we always want them to see growth and be around positive environments. But what's the only way that you can really know your kids in a positive environment, then keep them around you? If you're doing positive things, which we want them to see that. And
Yeah.
so we've always had strict family time. We're going to eat together. We're not going to eat separately, and we're always going to have one day committed to family day. Well, when we
Mm-hmm.
got back in this industry, it didn't seem out of the norm to bring them along, to let them see things, to let them be around 7-figure earners in this industry, 6-figure earners,
Mm-hmm.
owners of this industry, and for them to be able to see that, travel with us, be involved with the process. It just sort of felt normal.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem like we had to force it. Our kids love to travel, since we love to travel, and because of this industry. And I'll just say, in the last few months, we were able to take them to New Orleans, St. Croix, Las Vegas. We've taken them to Disney World, Disneyland. We've taken them to Arizona on a trip, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
We've been, our goal is to expand, and taking them to Utah in a couple of months. So, out of the country. So we've always been about expansion, and our motto is, we rather our kids live it than to read about it. Right. So
Yeah.
that's what we're able to do now, and letting them see the Grand Canyon in person, instead of just seeing it in a picture or on somebody's wallpaper. So it just felt natural, because of the work that we've been putting in for almost 14 years of marriage, and almost
Mm-hmm.
15 years together. It just sort of just flowed, because of that's naturally who we are.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. Yeah, I think you guys both covered it. And I think that's so significant to point out that you all are able to travel with them as a result of the lifestyle and as a part of the success journey. Now, did you know that that was going to be a significant component of what you were looking for when it came to entrepreneurship? Because we talked about time freedom a little bit earlier. So once you started having kids, like you said, you were now thinking about time together and all of that. Did you know that travel was going to be a love and a big part of everything for you all? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think tapping into the lifestyle that we want to lead helps us when it comes to goals. So let's roll over to goals.
Yeah.
How are you able to build out your goals individually, but then also as a family? So personal from the business, but then also as a family. Are you sitting down having meetings? What is your success strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. I just kind of jumped in. I was like, yeah, that's the part I like. So, yeah. So, the thing in this industry, which I love, is an industry where you can't go far by yourself, right? You
Mhm.
can go fast by yourself, but you can't go far. And we're always looking at far, long term, bringing other people with us. And
Mhm.
so, the beauty of this is we always talk about collapsing decades into days, meaning people who have done it before you, that you follow the ones who are having success, and they're going to
Mhm.
leave the clues and the tips behind for you. And so that was easy for us because we watched and modeled different mentors and leaders who were at the places where we wanted to be and listened to what they said they did with their families and how they addressed it. So one of the biggest things that they always talk about is to have those meetings with the children, with your spouse,
Mm.
sit down together, even with outside supporters, might be the grandparents or the aunties, uncles, whoever else is contributing to helping in your household, and let them know what you're working on. And
Mhm.
the beauty thing of this industry is you really can do a lot in 90 days. So everything is built around a 90-day time frame. And so you
Mhm.
may have to tell the kids, all right, guys, especially like we have an older one who's 13 and our
Mhm.
11-year-old, they both know how to cook. So if we're working on something major, we may say, all right, y'all, we need y'all to cook now for the next 2 weeks, or y'all kind of figure it out because this is what we have to do. Or we're going to travel, we're going to get meetings at night. So we're going to need you to help us with this and that. And so we have that, but there's a reward at the end of it. So
Mhm.
now they're all in because they want that reward, right?
Mhm.
And so we learn that there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like we're, hanging or dangling a carrot in front of them. No, they're going to get that reward if they help us. This is their contribution to the family, so we can do all of those things that they talk about doing, that we talk about doing. We ask them what it is that they want to do, where they want to go, where they want to explore to. And, we put things down. We're like, okay, we can do this in 3 months. And then they're
Mhm.
like, oh, and so they keep asking, Mommy, how close are y'all to getting to your goal? So now they're pushing
Mhm.
us and they're not giving us no, flack or anything
Pushback.
because
Yeah.
they know what we're working towards. So that has been the most helpful tip that anybody in this industry can give to another person or even family who's
Mhm.
working on goals but may have some challenges due to, family or time or children or things of that such. So that
Yeah.
has been really, really helpful. We have a calendar. So
Mhm.
I think it's like probably definitely every week,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
a
Once
couple
a week.
times, once a week, definitely, but a couple times a week, we'll go with each other's calendars and we're like, all right,
Mhm.
where we're at here, where we're here. If he may, want to do with something or whatever
Mhm.
outside of home, then he's like, all right, babe, what you got going on this time? And I'm like, what I got going on? So we're very communicative about
Mhm.
our schedule, our calendar, the children's events, because they're in sports. So that's the other thing. We didn't want them to not be able to participate in gymnastics, in karate, in baseball, in basketball. So we
Yeah.
work around that. And this industry allows you to do it because
Mhm.
again, you're working with a team, you have
Mhm.
leverage, you have leadership. And so your leadership can jump in when you can't. So
Mhm.
again, leverage income, I can't stress it enough, is the best type of income
Mhm.
that everybody actually needs.
For
We
sure.
need that, not just the linear paycheck to paycheck, because we won't be able to go far. Like,
Mhm.
Long term.
yeah, long
Yeah.
term.
And
Yeah.
can I add something? You asked something
Yeah.
earlier about the time aspect.
Mhm.
When I was in the police department, I could never conceive or think about doing anything extra besides what they wanted me to do, because there could be a week that we're coming in on nights and they can say on the last day, hey, we need you guys to come in on nights again next week, and they could throw off your whole schedule.
Right.
So I was always at the control, the whim, and the desires of what my department needed. But when we decided that we were going to allow me to walk away, now it became the mindset was I can definitely do more. So now, because of the freedom that we have, that now I get to coach our son, and his baseball team and his basketball team.
Nice.
He looks at me as Coach Dad. I just his baseball game just ended last week. I was assistant coach of that. I've been an assistant coach or head coach for 3 of his basketball leagues, and I'm gonna be his head coach this year for his baseball league, for his basketball league. And
Nice.
he's gonna roll into football. So it
Mhm.
gives you the time that the job does never allow you to have. You don't have
Mhm.
to ask for days off, and you do not have to ask for permission to live the life that you want to live,
That's right.
because this
Mm.
industry allows you to get control of it if you implement and do the things that your leaders tell you to do, and what you've been shown along the way. So that's what we've been able to do, and it's been amazing. I love every minute of it, and seeing the smile on his face, and actually we got to go baseball shopping, about sneaker shopping for basketball. Like, I
Nice.
look forward to it. Like, it's been
Yeah.
amazing.
He
Yeah,
really
I
does.
do. I do.
The other,
It looks like it.
the other one thing, can I add something else,
Yeah,
Kimberly?
yeah, yeah.
So the other thing too is that people also may, some people may not be that excited about the industry, but they like
Mhm.
what they're hearing as far as what it can do. Also, I want people to remember that as you're making income and money, you're going to have opportunities where you can now take your money and invest. You let that money go work for you to do other, have other streams coming in from investments and from real
Mhm.
estate. People purchase property and land, and we've been able to do all of those things. And so this is not just I'm a network marketer. This is a vehicle.
Right.
And that's what you got to
Mhm.
remember. This is a vehicle. It's a wonderful profession and people can stay in it forever. But some people get in to get out so they can
Mhm.
then go and open up the nonprofits and those
Mhm.
buildings. And you literally can do whatever it is you choose to do. But the thing is a short period of time, because we all know working for 40 hours a week, right? That's how we've been taught for 40 years. But at the end of that, you end up retiring on 40% of your income. And so
Mhm.
I always say to people, if 100% of your income right now is not enough to live off of, then you already know when you retire from a job, less is not going to help. So you're going to
Mhm.
need something else. So when you look at this industry, you give it a good 2 to 5 years of focus, part time, until that part time income starts to replace your full time income. In 5 years, you look up and now you have options.
Right.
Whereas
Mhm.
40 years, at the end of that, you're making less than what you were making while you were working.
Yeah.
So that's the temporary sacrifice that you have to get, have and give for the
Mhm.
long term gain that you want.
Yeah. And you mentioned it, everything is work. Like anything that we do that we're going to be successful is work. And so what gave you the conviction in the end to pursue? What tangible thing was it, a tangible thing that gave you the conviction in the end to pursue? Because I think that helps people to understand, and everybody's personality is different. So what was it for? It could be, individual, or it could be collectively. You both felt the same. What was that thing that made you have the conviction?
You know what? Here's the funny part. In our previous opportunity that we got started, I wasn't excited. I said, "Yeah, we'll join the service." I was not excited about the. I was burned. I was like, "No, I don't want to do this
Right.
no more." And I'm being real, because just because we're in the industry doesn't mean we've always been in the industry. There may be
Mhm.
times that the couples are butting heads, and one may be more for and or the other one's against, and that's okay. But I remember one night specifically, like she said, I used to work 120 hours of off duty extra money. Um, and it was one day, I think it was a Friday, and
Mhm.
I was getting ready to go pick up a shift. I'm like, oh, there's something out there. I'm going to go get it. Tell them I'm coming. I'm coming to go get it. And it was
Mhm.
only going to be for like maybe like, let's say $200, right?
Mhm.
And then she said, you don't need to go. We made this in our business way more than what you were going to go earn. And I laid in there when she showed me. I laid
Mhm.
in the bed, and I'm not soft or anything, but I actually cried a little bit
Mhm.
because it felt like the work was paying off. Even that
Mhm.
little instance where I could be home that night instead of
Yeah.
leaving and giving my
Mhm.
time to go chase a dollar. We had money coming in just
Mhm.
from a little bit of work and effort that she was putting in, and it was just
Mhm.
it was amazing. So that night sparked the conviction that okay, this is real, because that was
Mhm.
our life for several years, where we'd always have to trade our time for money, time for money, time for money. And she said, no,
Yeah.
babe, you don't have to do that tonight.
Yeah.
Lay down and
That's
relax.
powerful.
He
Yeah.
did. I mean, if I could just add to that how I felt, and then I also want to, for women or men that's watching who don't have supportive spouses as
Mhm.
of today in the industry, because up until that moment, Fred, like he said, he was all for the customer side, but he really wasn't a real fan of the business side because of what happened previously. He's like, oh, okay, here we go again, kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
had to fight that and keep going and knowing how he felt. So
Mhm.
I remember I used to sit down in my office. I'm about to be emotional. And in the beginning, all right, I hope people can relate to this. And I'm going to share this because a lot of times you see the pretty side of
Yeah.
things, but you don't see the
Yeah.
other side. And I
Yeah.
would sit in my office and I would prepare for a conference call that we've
Mhm.
invited guests to get on. And then I'm on
Mhm.
a call and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
And then I have to go and report when he says, how did it go?
Yeah.
Nobody showed up.
Right.
And so I'm not talking about one night. I'm talking about
Mhm.
night after night after night after
Mhm.
night, nobody
Mhm.
showing up.
Right.
And so now you got all the voices in your head. You
Mhm.
got him looking over your shoulder, trying to be supportive, but at the same time, I can feel it. And so you got to fight that. And so what you
Yeah.
do is personal and professional development. I can't stress it enough in this industry is not the same that you would get from just as a business owner, a traditional business owner. It's a different book than that you need to read than that. It's a different book that you need to read going through, schooling or even going through a theology school. Is
Mhm.
totally, this industry is totally different. So you need personal professional development to keep you going, keep you strong, to help you to continue to get up and do it all over again. And so I say that because when that day happened, when I said, babe, you don't have to go in, we made
Mhm.
money, because then
Mhm.
people started coming in and coming on board and the team started growing and things were happening. And that is when I felt like he was like, all right, I'm all in. And from there,
Yeah.
we have both been all in from that point.
Mhm. So it felt like victory. That was tangible. It was you're
Yeah.
tangible. You're like, okay, I can touch this. This is my time getting that back and being
Yeah.
with my family. So it was tangible and that helped you to believe it. And so I want to highlight some of the things that you all said because Jatasha just talked about the fact that she persisted. People did not show up. And so in our lives, whether it's work, where you're going into a job, whether it's you're trying to build a business, which is our focus here, whether you're trying to start a group, a movement, whatever, you have to have the conviction that in spite of whatever, people may not show up, but you're going to continue. You have to have that sort of belief. So, Jatasha, I really want to understand your why. Like, why did you continue to persist in spite of the husband who at the time didn't believe? I'm sure you were burning a candle at both ends in the sense of not necessarily burnt out, but in the sense of working hard. And so, what was that made you say, this is going to provide us the life that I see for us on your own? And then, of course, Fred jumped on. But women, this is my shout out to all the ladies. Okay. All the ladies, but no, but together you're doing greater. But I love how you and one other thing before I move forward, I love how you talked about that from a singles perspective, because I think a lot of people do feel like in entrepreneurship, if you have someone else, it's easier. But doing it alone sometimes is how you uh, get to the point where you get over that plateau, and then that kinesis begins to happen. So can you speak to that, Jatasha? What was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so a mixture of things. One, I grew up, seeing my parents, kind of go through a lot in,
Mhm.
as it pertains to finances. It was
Yeah.
always a conversation, it was always a struggle, it was always a headache, which, infringed on their marriage. And I did not want that. So that was a
Yeah.
motivation. Okay. So I
Mhm.
was like, we're not going to have money in the way of our relationship, of
Yeah.
life, of living. I don't like to go to a store and can't buy what I want like that. That's just
Facts.
I don't like that. I don't like the word no when I want something. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, all right, not now, maybe, but no, like completely, I
Yeah.
can't get it ever. No, I like to be able, I like unlimited
Mhm.
earning potential. I don't like
Yeah.
limitations. And I said that
Mhm.
before. So y'all know I really don't like limitations. Don't put limits on me.
Yes.
Feel like I'm
Yeah.
stuck. So
Yeah.
all of that was motivation. And
Mhm.
then, as my husband said, traveling around and doing and seeing the things that we learned about in the textbooks, or not really learn the proper
Mhm.
information in the textbooks, but to go and
Mm.
check it out
That's
for
true.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And so those are my motivations. I love to travel. I love exploring. I love meeting new people, and
Mhm.
I knew that I needed money to do it, and
Mhm.
I needed time. And in order to
Mhm.
get it, this is going to be the fastest and easiest way for me to get it in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so those are my motivations.
Yeah. And I want to talk a second about something you talked about, which was investments, because there is an investment of time, of investment of energy, an investment of finances. It is low cost to start a turnkey business, which is a bonus for turnkey businesses, network marketing, and the like. But a lot of times people look at the money that other people have, and to your point, it wasn't a fast tomorrow, it's going to happen. It was a process. And so in entrepreneurship, I think we forget that, or a lot of people forget looking from the outside in, that it still is a process. Just like if somebody takes the regular path and goes to college, gets their master's or doctorate, gets a job, whatever, that's a process of about at least
Mhm.
what 8 years, 6 to 8 years in order to achieve that. And I want to talk about the investment of time really quickly, but more so as a result of that investment of time. You sort of touched on this, Jatasha. You're able to make more money to put towards investments. But it was important to get to that place and manage your money so that you had savings, so that you had emergency funds, so that you had all of these other things to then tap into investments. So, can we talk about that? Because y'all know my hat is finance. Can we talk about that for just a minute and you all's process?
Yes. You want to start?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
from the beginning, in terms of of time aspect, you're going
Mhm.
to give time to the things that you value the most. And if you
Yeah.
and at some point in time, you're going to have to. If you don't value your time, somebody else is going to dictate what you do with it. And so we learned that along the way, and
Mhm.
that we had to really just manage what we did, and we seen how we can make money, and how we didn't have the proper mindset at the beginning to hold on to it and to
Mhm.
sustain it. And
Mm.
we've seen that over and over again until and our process was almost about 11 years from the time we really seen the industry to the previous opportunity where we were like, oh, it clicked.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen overnight.
Mhm.
It was like a 10, 11-year process. And that's where we actually put ourselves around the experts and the people who knew about money, who knew about
Yeah.
investing, who knew
Mhm.
about ways to make your money work for you. And that's the thing
Mhm.
that neither one of us learned in high school, college, nothing. Money is
Mhm.
a tool and it's an object to do what? To make more money for you. But
Mhm.
nobody teaches you how to do it. Nobody even teaches you that it's a possibility until you get out of it. So it took us, how long did it take us when we joined that last opportunity to really understand it?
Our first, I think it was a year
Yep.
in. So we knew about it. We just wasn't in a position
Right.
to invest in anything to have our money.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
as we followed the steps and the process that we learned, then we were ready because we talked with advisors. We talked with people who were
Mhm.
already doing it. So you can't do it
Yeah.
alone. That's the other thing. What we
Mhm.
think we know, if we knew it all, we
Mhm.
would be where we wanted to be.
Right.
So that's the part that we
Yeah.
have to just get out of the way and say, okay, let me go to the experts. And then how they say, when you pay attention.
Right.
So everything
Mhm.
can't be free. All
Mhm.
information you have to pay for, whether it's a class, a workshop, or whatever. Is
Yeah.
look for things that you want to pay and invest in, because the free stuff all the time. Not to say it's not a good thing, but it's limited information you get there.
Mhm.
You're paying for these experts' time, but it's
Yeah.
still going to be a fraction of what they're going to teach you. That's going to allow that money that you paid to grow even
Yep.
grander. And so
Yeah.
that's it took about a year for us to get in to
Mhm.
that part of the wealth side of things, and we learned
Mhm.
about private banking and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so we opened up our own, and we started there, and then we opened up a second private
Yep.
bank for my
Mhm.
husband, and we started to see growth happen there. Then we had opportunity where we could purchase land,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And so now we got commercial land that is growing, and
Mhm.
the value. So now the time frame, 5 to 10 years, that's a whole piece of real estate that
Mhm.
is underdeveloped, that's getting ready to explode in the next few years. And we are in the beginning of that. So
Mhm.
it's not a get rich quick. You got
Yeah.
to be in for the long haul. But again,
Mhm.
5 years, we got 5 years. right?
Yeah.
And then now we can see, that. And then from that, when you're around more people, the people who know these things, they're like, "Oh, did you know about
Mhm.
this?" They just drop
Yeah.
nuggets and
Yeah.
tips, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I didn't know about that." They're like, "All right, call this person.
Yeah.
They'll tell you and walk you through." So it's
Yeah.
who you connected to, who you're around. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the
Mhm.
wrong room.
Yeah.
You need to be around people who are smarter than you. So that's another tip that
Absolutely.
we learned that we didn't realize. We thought we wanted to be the smartest ones because that's that. If you not
Yeah.
smart, then what are you doing? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I look forward to being around people that can teach me. I don't want to be the smartest anymore.
Yeah, association is absolutely key. Mentorship, being coachable though, and that goes back to what Fred was talking about with mindset. Because if you have a mindset to have a wall up when somebody's offering to coach you who's a little further along, then you find yourself in cycles of failure. And I know we say we fail our way to success, but we can have a shorter process in that
Mhm.
failure journey, as we're learning. And so, one of the things that I love that you all work together. I love that you're sitting down. You mentioned time, you mentioned goals, weekly sitting down, bringing the children, involving them. You mentioned 90-day cycles, and you have a strategy absolutely to how you all are maneuvering through life. And that's one of the things that I'm impressed by and admire, as I watched you all from afar. I love to see couples that can work together, because you don't see that very often. That's a successful thing. Oftentimes you see somebody digging behind the scenes, like talking about their spouse and not edifying them, and that sort of stuff. And it's not just in one specific industry; it's across the board. And so to see a couple that is working together is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you both on when I invited you, and not just one or the other, because I wanted to show that example. And so let's get real.
Mhm.
Pros and cons of working with your spouse. Like, you don't have to tell all the nuggets, but all the goodies, but just a couple of pros and cons. And if it is a con, what's something that you've done to tweak it? Because we want to be about solutions.
All right. So you want to go with the cons or pros?
It
He's like,
don't
I got
matter. They're
one.
all the same.
Yeah. Right. So here's the thing that I've learned. There really isn't a true con when you're able to
Mm,
when you value your time and your spouse. There's no real
yeah.
con.
Hmm.
Um, the only real con I see at times is the fact that you may have to, um, uh, actually there is no con.
Mm.
Actually, there is none. To be honest with you, because I look, my wife is truly my best friend. So
Oh,
I don't say that
I
because
know.
to boast or nothing like that,
Right.
because it's true. And I feel like if you're going to marry somebody, you're going to marry your best friend, and that's
Yeah.
truly what we have. So
That's awesome.
there's really no con to really working with my wife full time. We laugh, we joke, we play, we kid around, we have fun. We know when it's time to work, when it's time to be serious. But we can also, we can turn it on, turn it off at the drop of a dime, and I can just say, hey, I want to cuddle up with you for a minute, or no, we got to do this. So we don't
Hmm.
really take offense to what we have to do when it comes down to working each other, because some days may be more chaotic than the next. We still got the kids, still got this schedule, so we just really, because we both enjoy really loving the journey and appreciating the journey,
Hmm.
because we know what the other side looks like,
Hmm.
because we've seen our parents go through it, and
Mm.
because both of our
Yeah.
parents, the stress, the strain, the financial struggles that they've had in my parents' household, her parents' household, we know what the other side looks like. So I
Yeah.
think that gives us more of a conscious,
Mhm.
a consciousness to know, okay, we're going to make this work. And from the beginning, we said, no, we're going to make this work.
Yeah.
So I want to see her succeed. She wants to see me succeed, and we're going to succeed together and bring the kids. And most importantly, we want to help everybody else succeed. And I think it's easier when you have people who truly want to see other people win and have a desire for that. So to me,
Yeah.
there is no con. The pro, time freedom, travel freedom. We don't mind taking our kids out of school and going on a trip, and like we did for Vegas. So
Hmm.
who else can see, stay at the Bellagio, on a Tuesday night or on a Wednesday night during school year while not living in a state where their friends are at home doing homework?
Yeah.
Not really. We focus on experience, and we don't just
Hmm.
focus on just, giving experience, telling our experience. We want our family, our kids, and those who we're associated with to see no, we're really doing this, and you can do it too.
Mhm.
So I'll
Mhm.
let you know.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much touched on a lot of it. Right now, the space that we're in, and I know we didn't get to go deep into. You asked me earlier what we do, but we're now focusing on our health because I know we talked about finances and we got
Mhm.
that out, out the way. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna say out the way, but we got
Mhm.
that to where we have a good hand on it, understanding. We have the people in place to help us, but we needed to make sure our health was in tip top shape, and
Mhm.
so that's the focus, that the direction. And so we're on the same wavelength with that because I lost my parents, both of them, before age 60, and my husband did as well.
Mhm.
And so health now is a real big thing for us. So there's
Yeah.
no cons in what we're doing currently right now. The
Mhm.
only thing I could say, just to make this relatable to some people who may be working with their spouses,
Mhm.
is that the personal development as far as how far you go in growing in this industry. If you feel like one is not moving as fast as the other, then that can be frustrating because certain things that you feel like you should know that that's like the psychology behind that because we've been in this industry together the same amount of time. But just
Mhm.
because you've been in at the same time doesn't mean you're in the same pace. He was
Mhm.
working a lot of time, so he couldn't do a lot of reading like I was doing a lot of reading. And so
Mhm.
you have to extend grace. A lot of grace has to be extended, but also strategies of just working in this industry. There's
Mhm.
times like my husband, he'll get on the phone and he'll be talking to someone about the business, and then they're talking for hours. I'm like, babe, we gotta make phone calls. What you doing talking to
Right. Right.
people? Like,
Right.
no, you're not following the system. What
Mhm.
is going on? So that I think for me was probably like the biggest frustration because I would be down here and I could hear him talking. I'm like, oh my God, why is he still talking to the people? But those are things that, these are stories we can now laugh about and we can teach other people because somebody will say the same thing. I'm like, yep, we've been down that road or what have
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I've done it before. There's lots
Mhm.
of stuff in the industry that the do's and
Mhm.
the don'ts, but again, you got to, fall
Mhm.
forward sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but that's minor, and I'll take that any day. Again, than not
Mhm.
having him home and having his schedule controlled and my schedule controlled, and now we have a great schedule that we enjoy and we love. But
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
love what we do, and we love empowering other people, and we get to do it together, and we get to go and sit in somebody's house and help and coach them, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
just connect with them. And you start off in business meeting people as
Mhm.
just business partners who turn into friends, who then turn into family. And so
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. And sometimes the people here are closer to you than your own
Right.
family, or you
Mhm.
create a family like environment with the people that that you came in business with. So it's a win-win all around, and your kids get to meet others kids and all of that stuff. So those are the
Yeah.
pros and the cons that we would say that we faced and dealt with since being
Yeah.
in the industry. Hmm.
Well, as we, wrap up, I want to. You had mentioned a moment ago about health, and you mentioned about your parents and how on both sides they didn't make it to the age of 60, and how that was significant in what you're doing now, as a part of back to that question, that why. And so when we think about because you guys retired your husband, right? And it wasn't necessarily with this particular um opportunity that you're with right now, but it doesn't change the fact that this is something that speaks to you and gives you a drive to move forward. And so I want to close out by talking just a little bit more about drive in the success journey. Like, I want to see if you guys can give people some tips as we close out around strategy, around drive, and maybe it could be just reiterating as a wrap up. But then around the significance of attaching yourself and having your own authentic story, your own authentic a voice when it comes to tackling tackling the goals, tackling the business, and being successful. And so I hope I was clear. I feel like I'm I feel like I looped around that question. So let me repeat. Can you close us out with strategy, success tips, as well as the journey as we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to start?
No, I'll say, can you see? Can you still hear us? Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So for us, losing both of our parents, well, before 60, her mom was 42, her dad was 57,
Mhm.
my mom was 56, and my stepdad at the time was 46.
Mhm.
So we've seen, and it was recent. Her dad, my mom, just passed in January of this year. So for us, you
Mm.
know, you know, for me, it hit home a lot harder because it was just so recent.
Yeah.
The trauma never leaves you, but just the fact that my mom, she had just passed. So when we were introduced to this, it just made so much sense because we just felt like had the products that we're company that we're aligned with now, had they been around, really, had we known about it, it could have been something like, "Mom, listen, you need to be on this because it
Mhm.
can help with X, Y, Z." We
Mhm.
knew her health wasn't great. Her dad's health wasn't great. Her
Mhm.
mom was instant. My dad, his health wasn't great for a while, but we felt like this just hit served us in so many ways because we don't want to be in a position where we have to wake up and realize, oh, you have to be on medication, you have to do this, you have to do something. Our lifestyle now is we want to be preventative, that way we never have to have our children worry about, is our mommy and daddy okay? We
Mhm.
don't ever
Yeah.
want them to have to feel the same feelings we felt. And we know that we're not in control of the timeline, only God's in control.
That's right.
But we don't
Mhm.
want to be a contributing factor because of
That's
our
right.
negligence
Right.
to have them
Mhm.
go through the things that both of us had to go through with our own parents.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
this hit home because we know that there's people out there who are struggling across the board, but they just don't know that there's something out there that can help them with the situations or those health issues that they're going through. And we're not
Mhm.
saying that we are the end all be all. We make no medical claims, but there's a remedy out there for whatever you're going through. So
Mhm.
especially for my mom, I know near the end, she just wasn't processing the medication that her doctors were putting her on. So it was just like, had there been something different, an alternative at that time, we probably
Mhm.
would have been able to, save my mom's life. So that's why it's powerful for me, and
Mhm.
and being authentic as we share this information. And so I know my wife, she's passionate about everything that we get involved with. So it's easy for her because she loves empowering people and seeing people win.
Mhm.
And I feel like she can sell or do anything, when it comes down to this industry. But her heart is to see people win and whatever they choose and desire. So I'll let you go ahead and close this out.
Yeah, so no, that was good. Everything he said, just, I mean, spot on. And I mean, the tips and
Mhm.
strategies to take if you decide to look into this industry based off of what we just shared over the past hour is find what resonates with you. You got
Mhm.
to find, there's lots of great companies out there. So this is not a, hey, come join us. There's lots of great companies. You got to find which one works for you, what speaks to you, what makes the most sense, the leadership, the company, record history, the growth, the next 5 to 10 years, what's the plans? Like you want to look at all of that. And so
Mhm.
as you're shopping around for your companies, and that's what made it easy for us is because the message spoke to us. We were lacking in the finances in the past, so we know that was we needed our finances to be better. So that was
Yeah.
a no brainer. And now, like I said, that we got that under control. The health piece, like you said, we don't want our children to have to worry about something that we didn't, when we especially knew about and didn't choose to
Mhm.
make a change and a difference. So that's what motivates us to keep going. Is that not just so much us, but there's so many people around us that we know that are
Mhm.
also going through and dealing. And so I get excited when I hear stories and testimonies when people, like, the light bulb goes off or things change or reverse in their lives that was maybe going in a different direction, not the favorable
Mhm.
direction. Now it's going in a better direction.
Mhm.
That drives me more than, I mean, I get excited and I'm like, yes. And then I like
Yeah.
to share those stories with other
Mhm.
people who I know. And so I collect all these stories in my mind of the different people I know. And as I
Mhm.
meet different people and they tell me those things, then I say, oh, you know what? I have a friend or a business partner or, and that's it. Just like
Yeah.
I feel like the middleman, just making a
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. And sorry I got uh my words all twisted up. There was a thing that popped up over here and it sort of threw me off. So y'all forgive me.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it's like on this back end, it kind of threw me off. So, but yeah, like fourth quarter is not over, and so if you have something, anybody that has something that continues to inspire, just like you just said, people's stories, or even your passion of Fred, when sorry for the loss of your mother. I lost my father in June. So that gives you a different sort of drive, right? It hits at your heart. And so, you don't have to lose someone, for those who are watching, to be able to tap into, your source as to why you have that drive to move forward. But you got to tap into something. You got to
Something.
tap into something. And so that is one of the reasons why, I think it is important to be just your own self, like,
Yeah.
and not try to be anybody else in this entrepreneurship journey, on your job, in your businesses, as a husband, as a wife, whatever it is, to show up as our own authentic self, especially, those who are leaders, because you may be missing out on an opportunity that is made specifically for you to inspire, uplift, encourage, anyone else. And
Mhm.
so that is why one of the reasons I do what I do, tired, whatever, because of the fact that it is bigger than me. And I think that's what you all are both saying. That's what I hear.
Mhm.
It's bigger than you. It's about legacy. It's about being able to help others and share and empower, and also be led by the Lord. And that is what helps you to also have success. And so as we wrap up, and we it kind of challenge you all to go out and not give up on this fourth quarter, but to implement some of these tips and tools and skills and all of that. I want to ask Fred and Jatasha how people can get in contact with you so that they can follow your lead as well, in whatever area: business development, personal development, goal setting, being a couple. You have so much, that you offer. So, how can we stay in contact?
Yep. So you can follow us on Facebook. So Jatasha M. Harris. And I'm
Hmm.
also Jatasha the Mommy Juggler on the business side, on the business page of Facebook. The
Hmm.
same on Instagram. LinkedIn is Jatasha Harris. Twitter. Um, what's the other one? TikTok. I'm even on Snapchat.
So many.
Also many. You can follow us on any of those. My husband, Frederick Harris, as well.
Hmm.
And so yeah, you'll see that we're about empowerment, about leadership, just like Kimberly said, helping you find what it is that you're wanting to do. Okay, not so much what we want you to do or think you should do. What is it you want to do? We're just going to help navigate you to that, asking just a few questions. It's really not that hard. The biggest thing is you need a coach. No matter
Hmm.
what, you need somebody to help guide you and direct you and help you to stay accountable to the goals that you set, not the goals
Hmm.
again that they want for you, and really just be there to help guide you and navigate you when you may feel off one day or not feeling like you want to continue on. We again remind you why you got started, why you said you wanted to do what you needed to do. So that's what we're about. I Am on Purpose LLC is our umbrella, and under that umbrella is the Mommy Juggler. That's my women's empowerment company. And then we also have our brand Retired Under 40, which we empower
Yeah.
husband and wives, couples, and not just couples, individuals as well, people who
Hmm.
are looking to get married, people who we've even
Nice.
encouraged people who were looking at getting divorced to stay in their marriage, looking at it as
Nice.
an alternative, because we're not just about business. When you come and tell us, because we're going to talk about your life,
Everything.
Hmm.
and then as we start hearing stuff, we're like, oh, hold on,
Nice.
let's put the business on the side. Talk about
Yeah.
that, what's going on with you and your husband, and
Right.
and then
Yeah.
we offer some things that we've gone through because we do development in our marriage. We just
Hmm.
did a re-engage class for church and stuff because you still need development in that area too. You don't
Absolutely.
have it all figured out. And so
Yeah.
what we learn again, we pass on. So you're getting the whole package. You're not just getting a business. You're getting a family, a couple who have made mistakes, and you're going to learn from the ones that we made, and you're not going to have to make those same ones unless you want to.
Right. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's been a pleasure to have you. And as we close out, I want to highlight our graphic designer, our brand consultant, as our sponsor of the show, of Coffee and Collaborations Media across the board, Elton Benjamin. Recalibrated for 2023. If you're looking for advertising and marketing, digital media and web, multimedia production, you want to make sure to reach out to Industry Image. Reach out. People inbox me all the time. Who does your graphics? Industry Image does everything for Coffee and Collaborations Media, and Kimberly Winborn LLC, which is right directly under Coffee and Collaborations Media. I mean, the Coffee and Collaborations Media is under Kimberly Winborn LLC. So reach out to Elton the Genius, Elton the Eye. He has so many names. If you need some graphic or branding, okay. And then I am going to be launching the Debt Detox Win Shop beginning November the 7th. Bi-weekly from November 7th to December 19th. These are the things we're going to be discussing. I'll be facilitating. I haven't done that in a while now, on my own platform. I've been doing it behind the scenes for organizations. So I'm excited to be able to do that. And so in my groups, in my win shop, we also talk about health. I couple health and finance together for those who wish to. But we're definitely going to be tackling some fourth quarter goals in order to set ourselves up for 2023, especially in the world of finance. And so this is my consistent ministry. And I call my workshops win shops because y'all know we are born to win.
That's
All
right.
right. So thank you all once again for
Thank
joining.
you.
Make sure you guys follow Fred and Jatasha. I love the marriage ministry stuff and all that they're doing with the retired under 40 community. I am on purpose. I mean, just so much. And then also in the space of health and wellness, which I'm excited to be partnering with them on. So as I get myself together, I always talk about wellness to wealthness, but you'll hear more and more from me in that space, you all. So, y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday. We will be back here with another leader, another exceller, another person who has a spirit of collaboration in this culture, the Collaboration Culture podcast. So, we will see you next time. You all have a great night.
Bye.
All right,
Thank you
thanks,
for having
Kimberly.
us.
You're welcome. Thank you all.